A beautiful, beautiful blessing to be together, always, but especially on this day. As usual, we'll begin satsang with a question that came in advance from our global family that joins us from all over the world, joining through this gift of technology, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and they can't be here physically, so they send questions, and out of love for the connection with them, we usually start with a question that comes in advance, and then I'll open it up to any questions that anyone here may have. How can I go deeper and love God and stay connected? I have had a spiritual inclination since my teenage years and have always been compassionate. To go deeper on our path requires attention and intention. Remember, our spiritual path is not taking us to outer space. It's not like learning physics or learning to become an astronaut, where you really have to learn things that have nothing to do with you, that no matter how long you sit and close your eyes, you would never know the answer to. Unless, of course, you are a rishi, because, of course, here in the Himalayas, the rishis sat long before telescopes were invented. And they closed their eyes, and they understood about the universe. But for the rest of us, if we were going to learn about outer space, we really have to do it by studying, by learning, by memorizing, by taking in lots and lots of facts and information. But our spiritual path isn't the outer space, it's inner space. Our spiritual path is taking us closer to who we are, which means to go deeper and deeper on it. All I've got to do is walk closer to my true self, which means I walk away from falsehood. Look, you can't walk in two directions simultaneously. You have to decide, I'm going to walk north or I'm going to walk south. I'm going to go right at this turn or I'm going to go left at this turn. You can't do both. Whatever vehicle you may be in, walking on your feet, in a car, on a train, in a plane, we can only go one direction at a time. And the same is true with our minds. We can be simultaneously doing a lot of things with our hands, with our legs, but our minds can only be focused on one direction at a time. And as long as I am focused on the external world, on falsehood, on this idea that I am my physical body, I am my bank account, I am my title, my name, my fame, well, that's the direction I've chosen. I cannot simultaneously be focused on the core truth of who I am. We've got to decide every minute and every moment, which way am I going to focus? Which way is my mind going to look? Now, you may change. There may be a moment where, for whatever reason, you got to be externally focused. Okay, no problem. But when that moment is over, we return back. The dilemma with most of us is that we spend the overwhelming majority of our lives focused externally. We identify based on how we add up according to the way that others in society will look at us. I'm beautiful, I'm handsome, meaning other people will think so. Unko lagega ki main bahut sundar hoon, therefore I am sundar. वो मेरे को respect देते हैं, therefore I am a respectable person. मैं उससे ज़्यादा पैसा कमाता हूँ या कमाती हूँ, therefore I am successful. We make these identifications based on the external world, comparing, contrasting, external values. The neighbors, what are they doing? वो क्या सोचेंगे? Everybody on the block is a doctor, so I must become a doctor. That's how most of us live most of our lives. Every minute that we are walking away from our true self, into that false self, I am a respectable person because you respect me. I am beautiful because you think so. I am successful because I have more money than you. Every time I self-identify like that, I'm walking away from my inner truth, which is, I am the divine. I'm an embodiment of the divine. That's the truth of who I am. And the success in my life has nothing to do with how much money I make or where I reach on a ladder, but it has to do with how much I know myself. So if you want to go deeper and be more and more connected, it's really quite simple. You simply have to decide, I'm going to walk in that direction. Doesn't mean you can't have a job, doesn't mean you can't do well at the job, doesn't mean you can't have relationships, doesn't mean that you have to live in a cave or on the top of a mountain alone. It just means, what is my focus? What is my primary focus? If my primary focus is external, that's where I'm going to go. You may become the CEO of a company. You may become the president of a corporation. You may become the richest person on the block. But when you wonder why you're not as connected to God as you'd like to be, why you're not as deep on your path as you'd like to be, why you still find yourself drowning in ignorance and darkness and fear, well, that's why. So, it's in our hands. Choose whatever direction you want. And there's no right or wrong, by the way. I'm not the spiritual police to sit up here and say to you, a connection to God must be your choice. A deeper path must be your choice. If you've decided that your highest goal is to make a lot of money, fine. It's up to you. The universe is infinitely patient. And if you decide to dedicate this life to making money, to being a success in the outer world, to forsaking, to forgetting, to neglecting, to denying, to ignoring the truth of who you are, no problem. You've got next life, next life, next life. The universe will just wait. right? I remember I spent a year teaching school in Ecuador in between my undergrad at Stanford and then my PhD degree. And I remember standing in front of classrooms, and you walk in and the kids are talking. They were 15, teenagers. And in the beginning, I would walk in and I'd say, be quiet, be quiet. You try to get everyone to stop. But I realized that was worthless, that was useless. It was just way too much energy of mine. It didn't usually work. And if I just stood in the front of the class and I said, I'll wait. And by the way, there'll be a test on this tomorrow. The clock is ticking. We've got 45 minutes. However much of that time you want to spend goofing around, no problem. I'll wait. And they became quiet really fast. So the universe is infinitely patient, very happy to just wait. However many lifetimes you want to walk in the wrong direction, okay. God loves you anyway. God is one with you anyway, whether you know it or not. But the question for us is, do we really want to waste lifetime after lifetime? And what are we gaining by doing that? It's not even like we're actually attaining joy or peace. It's not like, oh wow, this really makes me so happy. People are unhappy. People are depressed. People are anxious. People are fearful. They're stressed. They're constantly feeling like they don't have enough. They aren't enough. So the path we're walking seems not to be getting us to the destination we want to go. So give it a try. Just decide, today, I'm going to walk in this direction. Every minute, every moment, I'm going to choose my attention inward. I'll act in the world, I'll serve in the world, but my mind, my attention is inward. It's like in the prayer we chant each morning here that says, Mukhume ho Ram Nam, Ram Seva Hatme. The seva is happening, but the attention is chanting the name of God. So that's a choice we all have. A beautiful question to start with. Any other questions that anyone here has? Yes. Can you come here? Okay, that side works too. Come a little closer. Aha. You know what? I can also just lean into him. We can get close. Okay. Ask your question, but you got to speak into my microphone.
How could children become more like Pralad?
Beautiful. How can children become more like Pralad? Any adults here who would like to become more like Pralad as well? So, we've been speaking a lot about Pralad over the last couple of days of Holi. Pralad was rooted in devotion. Most of us, if there's a lot of pressure, peer pressure, pressure from culture, pressure from societies, to think a certain way, to be a certain way, most of us give in to that. We see it all the time. People who have deep inclinations, dharmas, gifts, of music, art, writing. People who are deeply inclined to a spiritual path, a path of renunciation, but who end up as engineers. Not happy engineers either, because from the time they were young, what they were told was, this is what you've got to do. You want to paint? Do it on the weekends. You want to make music? Do it on the weekends. You need a real job. You need to make real money. What do you mean you want to renounce? Only people who are failures renounce. Right? We've got these ideas in culture and society. I remember when I first decided to leave the world I was living in, to leave the PhD program I was in and to live here. And Pujya Swamiji made me finally finish the degree, made me stay, because he said, look, he said, nobody wants to accept that a spiritual path actually has any inherent validity in it. People think, jinke paas kuch bhi nahi hai, wo sadhu bante hain. Jo kuch aur kar nahi sakte hain, well, they take the path of sannyas. Jinme dam hai, why in the world would they renounce? Koi matlab nahi hai. And he said, you need to finish your degree so that no one can ever say, she ran away, she had a breakdown, she couldn't handle it. He said, because that's what everybody's going to want to say. Because there's this pressure in society to live a certain way. He said, so if you're going to choose this path, you have to be this model of someone who had the opportunity, who had success, and yet chose this. Kyunki spirituality mein dam hai. It's not mere mein kitni dam hai. It's how much value is there in the path. So Pralad was very unique, because most of us, if we're thinking away, acting away, living away, and everybody says, no, this is wrong. Don't worship God. Don't love God. Don't be devoted to God. Theek? We go along. But Pralad was strong. Pralad was anchored. Pralad was grounded in a truth that was so powerful that no amount of indoctrination or coercion or peer pressure could change him. Pralad loved God. And even though his father, this ego-filled king, as we've told the story over the last few days, kept trying to convince him and then harm him, nothing would sway Prahlad's devotion. You think, if at such a young age you had so many threats against your life, dar jate. You think, my God, mar jaunga. Pralad was not afraid. Pralad knew, whatever happens, I'm there with God. Every minute, every moment, I'm there with God. So he stayed strong. It reminds me of a story actually about Pujya Swamiji. When he founded the Hindu Jain temple in America in the early 1980s. In the mandir, it was a Sardaveshwar mandir, all of the different aspects of the divine. And it also had Shwetambar and the Gambar from Jainism, had the Havan Kund for Arya Samaj. It was everyone. And one time when Pujya Swamiji was back in India, another leader, another Hindu leader was visiting the mandir. It's a very famous mandir. And announced कि मेरे को चक्कर आ रहे हैं इस मंदिर में आकर. Whoever created this mandir, with all of these different energies everywhere, whoever made this mandir is going to hell. So when Pujya Swamiji came back, in those days there wasn't email or text message, and it certainly wasn't important enough to make a lightning call, which is what you needed to do back in those days. So when Pujya Swamiji came back to America, they told him what had happened. And he said, no problem. He said, if I have to go to hell, I'm happy to go to hell. He said, I'll build a Hindu Jain temple there in hell as well. Now, that level of anchoring and grounding, knowing, whatever happens, I'm with God. In hell also, if God is there, then hell is heaven. And so what made Pralad so special was that anchoring and grounding. And all of us, children, yes, but all of us could use that. Because, you know, when you grow up, people are going to say things to you like, why are you a vegetarian? Come on, eat this hamburger, it's really good. Or they're going to say to you, come on, just one cigarette, have a puff, there's nothing wrong with it. Come on, everybody's doing it, all the cool kids do it. Or when you close your eyes and maybe you pray for a moment before you eat, maybe they'll make fun of you. Maybe they'll do all sorts of things. Because kids are kids and adults are adults. Same way. Unfortunately, that's not something that we lose as we mature. So people are going to pressure you to be in different ways. Why do you pray to God? Who cares? Why do you do seva? Right? Because when you grow up, you're going to do seva just like mom and dad do. In such beautiful ways. They'll say, what a waste of your time. Make more money. Then you can have more things. Then you'll be happy. And when you say, but I am happy when I'm serving, then they'll say, oh, you're crazy. And maybe they won't invite you to all the parties. And maybe there'll be a little voice in you that says, maybe I should be like them because then I'll get invited to all the parties. Then they won't laugh at me. Then everybody will like me. But to be like Pralad says, in every circumstance, any circumstance, my truth, my connection is my best friend. Anybody who thinks that they're my friend but they want me to smoke cigarettes, they want me to eat non-veg, they want me to give up what I love, well, that person's not my friend. So that wisdom, that faith, that grounding, that's what Pralad has. So as you grow and you encounter all of this pressure, you just need to remember, I am Pralad. I am Pralad. And at least they're not going to try to kill you. Right? The most they're going to do is maybe make a little fun of you. They're not going to try to kill you. And God, Pralad, so many times they tried to kill him. But he stayed anchored, he stayed grounded, he wouldn't give up his faith. He wouldn't give up the truth of who he is. So just remember, I am Pralad. I am Pralad. Okay? Wonderful. Thank you for such a beautiful question, because we all could use in our own lives a little bit of remembering, I am Pralad. Yeah, all of us. All right. Raise our hands. I'm Pralad. I am Pralad. Because we all could use it to remember that. Yes. I have missed you. Welcome back. Yes. Last question.
How can I stay fearless every day?
Beautiful. So, first of all, fear is not an enemy. Okay? Fear is actually our friend. If you look at the science of evolution, if you look at how we evolved, well, we evolved because our ancestors were afraid. Imagine that in our ancestors living in the jungle, a tiger comes, or they hear the roaring of a tiger far away. Well, the ones who are afraid, and they hide, or they do whatever people did in those days to protect themselves from tigers, they're the ones who didn't get eaten, which means they're the ones who had babies, and we are the descendants. This is how natural selection, how evolution works. The ones who stay alive long enough to make the most babies are the ones whose genes we have. So our genes are the genes of our ancestors, who, when they heard the thumping of wild elephants, or they heard the roar of a tiger, they didn't wait to finish their cup of tea. They didn't say, Hare kuch bhi nahi hai. I'm not afraid. They understood. And they hid, they went inside, they did whatever they needed to do to stay alive. So fear is actually our friend. Fear of high places. Right? Well, why are we afraid of high places? Because if we fall, we die. It's a good thing to be afraid of really high places. So you don't want to become absolutely fearless. That's what we consider reckless, right? You want to wear your seatbelt in the car. You want to drive at a reasonable rate. We want to take care of ourselves, take care of our health, take care of our safety. That fear is good. However, at the same time, we don't want to allow fear to run our lives. So what are you afraid of? In here. Come here. What makes you afraid?
Drowning.
You're afraid of drowning. Okay. Well, actually, that's a really good fear to have. Because people die when they drown. But if you learn how to swim, and you swim in places that are safe, swimming is wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to do. And so you want to learn how to swim, and then you want to swim in places that are safe. But having a fear of drowning in the middle of a river like Ganga or in the ocean, it's a good fear. It'll keep you safe. But you should learn how to swim in places that are safe, places that are shallow, because it'll be really good to overcome the fear also. That'll make you stronger also. Anything else you're afraid of? Accidents, okay, good. So accidents we can prevent by driving carefully, being careful, wearing our seatbelts just in case somebody else is stupid and hits us anyway. But you don't want to be afraid of an accident every minute and every moment. This is where Pujya Swamiji gives a beautiful mantra that says, you do your best and you leave the rest to God. So with accidents, for example, we do our best. We drive safely, we wear our seatbelt, and then we leave the rest to God, because ultimately there isn't anything else you can do. You could be driving down a highway in California. We have earthquakes. In the middle of an earthquake, the highway falls. Now, you could be driving really safely and carefully. But if the highway falls, karogi kya? Right? So this is where we leave the rest. Leave the rest to God. What else are you afraid of?
Teacher shouting at me.
Teachers shouting at you. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere interesting. Because all of the other fears are actually fears that are good, fears that will keep us alive, fears that our ancestors had. Why are you afraid of the teacher shouting at you?
Because I will be silly in class then.
No, but if she shouts, फिर क्या होगा?
I will feel sad.
You will feel sad. Okay. And why are you afraid of feeling sad?
I don't know.
Nee, it's good. क्या होता if you feel sad?
I study more and then study more.
Okay. तो उसमें क्या हाँ गड़बड़ है?
Because then I'm scared again. Because of that fear, then I get bad marks again.
Okay. So this is a beautiful point, and we'll conclude satsang with this. Fear falls into two categories. One is fear of the body, fear of physical harm and death. The other is also fear of harm and death, but it's ego harm and death. And this is where fears tend to be things like heights, drowning, and public speaking. Now you think, well, where in the world is public speaking a threat to your health? It's not, but it's actually the number one fear. Because it's ego death. Oh my God, what if people laugh at me? Well, you're not going to catch a virus or a bacteria or have your limbs fall off. Your body will be fine. But the ego is so afraid that we have the same fear response to someone laughing at us that we have to falling off a tall building. And this is the stuff to work with. This is why those fears are ones to be overcome. Now, in this case, studying is great. But fear of the teacher yelling at you means if she yells at me, I feel sad. I feel sad because when someone else insults me, it makes me feel less about myself. If you criticize me, or you yell at me, or you call me a name, or you unfriend me on social media, that feels to my ego like there is something wrong with me. And that's a really sad place to live, because then what we've done is we've given the authority to others rather than the authority to self. So you should behave in class. You should study, not because the teacher's going to yell at you, but because that's why you are in school. That's why you go to school, to learn. And the way to learn is to study, because your parents have given you this wonderful opportunity. Every day they go to work, they make money. Why? So you can go to school and have a good education. I'm sure they'd rather sit on a beach. But parents go to work to make money so children can have an education. Which means that we as the children need to honor and respect that and do our school studies sincerely. You may not get straight A's. There may be subjects you're not good in. That's okay. The only rule is you must do it sincerely. Okay? But what if the teacher's just having a bad day? What if she's angry at her husband? She comes into class and she's grumpy. She yells anyway. Well, you want to make sure not to feel bad about that, to be able to realize that's not about me. Because otherwise, teacher having a bad day, going through a divorce, could make you feel worse about yourself. And you don't want to do that. And that's true for all of us. When someone insults us, criticizes us, harms us, it's about them. It's not about us. And so this is where that fear is a fear to work on and overcome. We should not be afraid of what she's going to say, what others are going to say. Because that's only ego death. Back when we were living in the jungles, foraging for food, we had to keep our society happy because we actually needed them to live. Someone gathered berries, someone fetched water, someone stayed and protected the land against tigers who would come with bows and arrows. So you needed to be, you were dependent on everyone. Now, we're interconnected, but we're not dependent upon everyone who thinks that we should be doing something else or living our lives in a different way. And so that fear is something it would be good to overcome. Because otherwise in your life you'll never take risks. Because you'll worry, oh, what if this person insults me or doesn't like me? So you want to have the courage to take risks, to know I like myself. The people who matter to me like me. And yeah, sometimes you'll get yelled at. When it's really because of something you did, then take it as a lesson. When it has nothing to do with something you did, just close your eyes and send out a prayer of love for your teacher who's suffering for some other reason. Okay? Beautiful. Thank you both. We'll take your question tomorrow. Okay, we'll start with yours tomorrow. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. Beautiful day to those joining us from all over the world. And so much love to you all.